At dinner, my wife told me she wanted a divorce. I said I expected it. Then I asked her to stand up. I had something to show her. She didn't flinch. That's what caught me. No wince. No hesitation. No cracked voice. Just a cold, almost mechanical, "I want a divorce," followed by a sip of her wine, like she'd just completed a line from a script she'd been rehearsing in the mirror. I didn't say a word for a few seconds. I looked at her, really looked at her. The new haircut, the fresh lashes, the red lipstick that hadn't touched a wine glass at home in months. Amanda never wore lipstick to dinner at home. Not unless someone else was supposed to be seeing it. The reflection of the pendant light shimmered off the gold chain she never used to wear. I'd seen that necklace before. On Brandon's Instagram. She didn't know I followed him from a fake account. I waited just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I pushed my chair back and stood up. She raised an eyebrow. "Now what?" she asked, in that same condescending tone she'd developed over the last few months. "I have something to show you," I said. She blinked, the first honest reaction I'd seen all night, but stayed seated. "Stand up." "Why?" She crossed her legs, that smug half-smile starting to stretch across her lips. "You gonna beg me not to leave?" "No," I said. "I want you to see something, but you're going to need to be standing for it." Still with that smug look, she rose slowly, taking her time, like she was humoring me. I stepped to the cabinet in the corner of the dining room and pulled out a small box. Not the kind of box you propose with, not anymore. A different kind. The kind that holds things people didn't know you'd kept. Her expression changed. Only slightly, but I caught it. I brought it to the table and opened it. Then I walked to the kitchen, reached above the fridge, and pulled down a tablet. I tapped the screen. Synced. Connected. The TV in the living room lit up. Amanda turned as a video began to play. Grainy. Dull audio. But clear enough. There she was. Amanda. In a hotel room. Laughing. With Brandon. Shirtless. Holding a champagne glass. The timestamp in the bottom corner didn't lie. December 14th. I said, voice low, calm. "The night you said your client meeting in Chicago ran late." She didn't move. Her hands were at her sides, stiff. "And here?" I said, flipping through the tablet and cueing the next file. Another video. This time, her walking into an apartment at 2:12 a.m., jacket in hand, hair messed up, lipstick smeared. 2 blocks from Brandon's condo. April 7th. "You told me you fell asleep at your friend Rachel's place after wine night." The air in the room changed. Amanda still hadn't said a word. Just stood there, arms crossed now, staring at the screen like if she blinked, the images would disappear. Like this was some twisted dream. But I wasn't done. I tapped again. A series of screenshots now, texts. Her words. Her laughter. Her plans. The flight itinerary. The dinner reservations in Cancun under Brandon's name. The same week she'd told me she was attending a female leadership summit. And finally, the bank transfer. The $800 she pulled from our joint savings to pay for his birthday getaway. Amanda turned slowly and looked at me. Her mouth opened slightly, then shut. She licked her lips and stared, trying to shape a lie, but for once, she had no words ready. All I said was, "You were going to divorce me before I could make you answer for it, weren't you?" She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. She just blinked. Once, twice. Then her mouth curved up, and she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not guilty. Not defensive. A straight-up, amused, unapologetic laugh. Amanda laughed like I just handed her a gift she'd been waiting for. No shame. No regret. Just this wicked amusement in her eyes. Like she'd been dying for this moment of exposure so she could finally stop pretending. "You went through all that trouble," she said, running a finger along the edge of the box like she was admiring the craftsmanship. "For what? To embarrass me? Catch me in the act? You think this makes you some kind of mastermind?" I didn't answer. She wanted a reaction. She fed off reactions, especially the kind that gave her control of the room. Not this time. She rolled her eyes when I didn't bite. "Let me guess, you've been playing detective for months, right? You probably sat in your little office at night connecting dots on a whiteboard. Did you use red string too? Come on, admit it. I stayed quiet. Wow, she said, stepping away from the table, slowly pacing the floor. All this effort, all this build-up. You really thought you were going to have your big hero moment, didn't you? No, I finally said. I knew there'd be no hero moment. I just wanted to look you in the eye and make sure you knew that I knew. No screaming, no crying, no begging, just truth. She scoffed. You think truth matters now? You think this changes anything? I asked for a divorce. You said you expected it. So great, we're done. Now what? You want me to crawl? You want some emotional scene so you can walk away feeling like a martyr? Why Brandon? I asked, ignoring her tantrum. Out of everyone in the world, why him? That's when something flickered in her. Not shame, not sadness, just a crack in the performance. A pause. She turned and looked at me. Because he listens, she said simply. Because he makes me feel like I matter. Because when I talk, he doesn't stare at his phone or mumble half-baked answers. I took that in. Not because I believed her, no. Amanda had a way of twisting narratives until they suited her. But because I wanted to hear every excuse she had. Every lie she'd layered over the past year. You didn't even try, she went on. You think paying bills and mowing the lawn makes you a husband? You stopped seeing me a long time ago. I nodded slowly. And that's why you lied? Hid messages? Spent our money on trips with someone else? She shrugged, as if that justified it. I deserved more, she said. I got tired of waiting for you to become someone interesting again. That one stung. But I didn't flinch. I didn't give her what she wanted. You deserved honesty, I said. What you did, that's cowardice. She tilted her head, looking at me like I was a child who didn't get the lesson. No, she said with a smirk. That's survival. And then she walked past me just like that into the hallway, as if the conversation was over. But it wasn't, because what Amanda didn't know was that I'd already filed, and the way I did it would be something she never saw coming. Amanda thought she held the final card. She thought she was walking out of that room having burned the bridge with style, thinking I'd stay behind, drowning in silence and humiliation. But what she didn't know, what she never bothered to consider, was that she wasn't the only one who'd been planning an exit. 2 weeks before that dinner, I filed for divorce. Quietly, strategically, with a lawyer who specialized in high-conflict separation. I'd already frozen half our joint assets. I'd pulled my name off her credit card accounts. I'd even removed her as a beneficiary from my life insurance. All the things she thought she'd sneak away with already cut off. And that house she thought she'd walk away with? The one she'd bragged about redecorating for the future? She never saw the quitclaim deed I had her sign last year when we refinanced. The one that removed her name from the title. She was too busy planning Cancun. I walked back into the dining room as she gathered her phone from the table. She paused, like she was expecting me to plead or lash out, some final show of pain. When I didn't, she looked disappointed. You really just gonna stand there? She asked. No, I said calmly. I'm going to give you this. I slid a second envelope across the table. She picked it up and opened it, her expression switching from confident to confused, then to annoyed. What the hell is this? Preliminary filing, I said. I filed before you did. You'll see the terms in there. My lawyer said you'd probably try to hit me with something dramatic, so we locked it in. Her hands clenched around the pages. You filed before me? Yeah, I said. Did it before you got back from that strategy retreat in San Diego. You remember? The one where you and Brandon got that spa suite with the outdoor shower. That look. The one where she couldn't tell if she was furious or afraid. It flickered for just a moment. Then she smoothed it out with a forced laugh. You're pathetic, she said, spying on me like a child, planning this like some revenge fantasy. No, I said. You're confusing pathetic with prepared. Big difference. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but the words tangled in her throat. Then her phone buzzed again. Brandon. Again. She glanced at the screen, then looked back at me. And for the first time, there was real silence. She shoved the envelope back into her bag and grabbed her coat. "You think this changes anything?" she snapped. "I'm still leaving. I'm still going to be happy. You're just going to be some bitter loser sitting alone in this cold house." I stepped aside. "Then go." She hesitated just for a breath, enough for me to know the reality was starting to hit. She wasn't walking out with the money, or the house, or the clean conscience. She was walking out exposed. She opened the door, stepped outside, and just before she closed it behind her, she muttered, "You'll regret this." The door clicked shut, and I just stood there, not angry, not relieved, just empty. For now. The silence after she left wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that makes your ears ring. I stood in the hallway for what must have been 20 minutes, not moving, just staring at the closed door like it was going to swing open again and undo the whole thing. But it didn't. It stayed shut. The house was dead quiet, except for the slow hum of the fridge and my own heartbeat, ticking like a clock in my chest. I walked back into the kitchen. The lasagna was still sitting there, steam long gone, a glass of wine still half full beside her untouched plate. She hadn't eaten a bite, just came here to drop the news like a bomb, expecting to walk away while I stood in the rubble. I dumped both plates into the trash, listening to the wet slap of food against the bag. The wine I poured down the sink. It was such a small thing, but I did it with a weird kind of finality, like washing away the last fake dinner we'd ever share. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the app I'd been checking on and off for weeks now. GPS tracking tied to her car's Bluetooth. Still on. Still active. She was driving east. Not toward her sisters like she'd claimed she always would if things fell apart. No. East meant one thing, Brandon. I should have been mad. I should have been pacing or shouting or punching walls like some sitcom husband betrayed in a primetime finale. But I wasn't. Instead, I found myself in the garage, unlocking the safe. I wasn't after anything dangerous, just the folder inside. Labeled neatly, contingency. Inside it was everything my lawyer had compiled. Records, statements, even a signed affidavit from Rachel, Amanda's so-called best friend. Turns out Rachel wasn't a fan of being used as an alibi so Amanda could sneak off with Brandon. She gave it all up in one phone call, furious after Amanda had ditched her birthday to fly out with him. "I didn't know you were still trying to make it work," Rachel had said. "I would have told you months ago if I knew she was still pretending." I sat on the workbench and went through the pages one by one. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel that crushing heartbreak you read about in stories. The truth is, that feeling had come and gone months ago, when she stopped laughing at my jokes, when she started locking her phone, when she kissed me with her eyes open, like she was waiting for it to end. This part, this slow unraveling of her lies, it was clinical. I was dissecting a body already dead, just confirming the cause of death. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. "Is this Eric?" A male voice asked. Calm. Neutral. "Yeah," I said cautiously. A pause. "This is awkward," the voice continued. "But I think we need to talk. It's about Amanda." My blood went cold. "Who is this?" Another pause. "My name's Mark. I'm Brandon's roommate." And just like that, the story twisted again. Mark's voice wasn't what I expected. It wasn't angry. It wasn't sympathetic. It was matter-of-fact, like he was calling about a missed delivery or a bill. "I know this is weird," he said, "but I figured, if I were in your shoes, I'd want to know. You deserve to know." "Know what exactly?" I stepped out of the garage, gripping the phone tighter, and walked into the living room. The video of Amanda and Brandon was still frozen on the TV. Her smile, her glass raised. It looked fake now. Plastic. "What are you talking about?" I asked, sitting down slowly. He let out a breath on the other end. "Look, I didn't want to get involved, but I've seen things, heard things. Brandon's not who you think he is. And Amanda, what about her? She's not the only wife he's been with." I didn't respond. I didn't know how to respond. Mark continued. "You're not the first married guy's life he's wrecked. He's done this before. I warned him. I told him it was going to catch up with him, that messing around with someone's wife never ends well. But he just laughed it off. He said, "This one's different." Like that made it okay. I stood up. My body didn't feel like mine anymore. I started pacing. "You're telling me he makes a habit of sleeping with married women?" "Yes. And Amanda? She knew. He brags. He doesn't hide it. He told her about the others. They joked about it." I stopped in the middle of the room, staring at the framed wedding photo on the wall. The one Amanda insisted we take on the cliffs in Big Sur, her dress billowing in the wind, both of us smiling like idiots. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally. "Why are you calling now?" "Because he's not just messing with your life. He's messing with mine too. He hasn't paid rent in 2 months. He's using my place like a hotel, bringing women in and out like it's nothing." I didn't mind at first, I stayed out of it. But Amanda, she's different. She's not just some fling. She talks like she owns him, like he's hers now. I overheard her the other night. She said she was going to take everything from you. My throat tightened. She said that. Yes, exact words. "I'm going to leave him with nothing. Then I'm going to make Brandon everything he isn't." That line hit harder than anything she'd said to my face. "I thought you should know," Mark said, "before it gets worse." I didn't thank him. I just hung up and sat. For a long, long time, Amanda wasn't just cheating. She was scheming. She was building a whole new life out of the pieces she was pulling from mine. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. It was like my brain had opened every drawer, every memory, and dumped them out across the floor. Her birthday last year, when she said she wanted a girls' weekend to decompress, but posted no photos. The out-of-state trainings that didn't show up on our credit card statement. The sudden shift in perfume. That black lingerie she said she bought for herself, because feeling sexy doesn't need to be about men. Everything was calculated. Nothing had been accidental. She'd been gutting me with a smile on her face. By 6 a.m., I was dressed and in the car. I wasn't even sure where I was going until I realized I'd driven to the storage unit we used to share. Amanda hadn't been here in almost a year. Said it smelled like dust and broken dreams. But I kept it, because it held our stuff. Old photos, a few boxes of wedding memorabilia, books from college, keepsakes. I unlocked it, lifted the door, and flipped on the dim overhead light. It was like opening a time capsule from a life that never happened. The wedding box was still there. I opened it. Inside, our vows, handwritten and tied together with a navy ribbon. Her handwriting stared back at me. Big loopy letters, decorated with little hearts. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Now it looked like a child pretending to be sincere. I read them, every word. "I promise to protect your heart as if it were my own." What a joke. Underneath the vows were the photos. Printed ones. From when we still believed in each other. Camping trips. Her laughing in the snow. Me holding her in front of the fireplace. Brandon wasn't even a shadow in those memories yet. But now, it was like he was haunting them. I threw the entire box into a plastic bin. I didn't know why. I just knew I couldn't keep looking at it. On the drive back home, I called my lawyer. "I want to move everything up," I told her. "I want the court date sooner. I want every account audited. I want the full forensic sweep we talked about. Everything." She didn't ask why. She just said, "Got it." Amanda was going to find out what it felt like to play chess with someone who'd been watching the board long before she made her first move. I walked back into the house around 9 a.m., and that's when I saw it. Her car. In the driveway. Amanda was back. I opened the front door, and there she was, sitting on the couch, legs crossed, holding a cup of coffee like she'd lived here uninterrupted. "Morning," she said, with a lightness that made my jaw clench. "We need to talk." I didn't move. I stood in the doorway like someone walking in on a stranger breaking into their childhood home. Confused, stunned, borderline furious, but more than anything, off balance. Amanda was in my house, acting like nothing had happened, like she hadn't walked out last night, like she hadn't laughed in my face after I confronted her with videos, texts, and travel receipts. Like she hadn't told me to my face that she was leaving for someone else. Someone who made her feel like she mattered. I shut the door behind me, locked it, slowly. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to know this conversation wasn't going to get interrupted. She looked up at me with that same performance face she used when she wanted to soften the blow of something she didn't want to apologize for. The don't be mad face. She wore it like armor. I shouldn't have left like that, she began, like she was offering me a favor. I was angry. I felt ambushed. I didn't answer. I walked past her and set my keys down on the table. She waited. When I didn't speak, she filled the space like she always did, with more words she thought sounded reasonable. I talked to Brandon last night, she said. Things got tense. I needed some time to think. And this is where you chose to do that? I said, finally looking at her. She had the nerve to look hurt. It's still my house too. Legally? Not for much longer. She smirked at that, like I just confirmed some small victory. So it's war then? No, I said. It's cleanup. A pause. She shifted on the couch. Look, I know you're angry. I'm not angry, I said, cutting her off. I was, months ago, when I first started noticing. When you started lying to my face about where you were, who you were with, what you wanted. I was angry when I still thought there was something here worth saving. But now, I leaned forward. Now I'm just done. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. I talked to your friend Rachel, I added. She's not exactly thrilled about being dragged into your lies. I have everything, Amanda. Not just the affair. The credit transfers. The falsified receipts. Even the messages you sent Brandon about what you were planning to do to me. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. You think Brandon's going to be there for you? I continued. You think a guy who collects married women like trophies is going to build a life with you? You're his Wednesday night. He's got a Friday girl, too. That broke the mask. Just a little. Her hand gripped the coffee cup tighter. I kept going. He's not your future. He's your proof that you can still seduce someone. That's all. You're not in love. You're in a competition, and you don't even know who with. Silence. Then she stood. Slowly. Measured. Like she was weighing every move. I came back because I thought maybe you'd want to talk this out, she said. But clearly, you've already written your little narrative. She grabbed her purse and headed toward the door. You're right, I said. I did write my narrative. You handed me the pen. She opened the door and paused. For a moment, I thought she might say something real. Instead, she looked over her shoulder and said, You'll never find someone like me again. I smiled. Just a little. That's the point. The door shut. But this time, it felt like it stayed shut. I stood there long after she was gone, letting her words hang in the air like stale smoke. You'll never find someone like me again. Good. I didn't want someone like her. I didn't want to spend another second in the orbit of someone who weaponized love, who turned trust into leverage, who smiled while gutting the foundation of everything we built. Amanda wasn't some tragic misstep or moment of weakness. She was a plan dressed in skin, a strategist with no allegiance except to herself. I spent the rest of the day quietly. No music, no TV, just the rhythmic sound of my own footsteps moving from room to room, packing things she'd left behind. Her closet still smelled like her. That high-end shampoo she used to tell me I was too basic to appreciate. Her shoes were lined up perfectly, like soldiers, polished and untouched. I grabbed a box and started dropping them in. Each thud felt like punctuation. The bathroom was worse. Her skincare, her makeup, lipsticks labeled in French, her hairbrush with strands still clinging to the bristles. I swept it all into another box, sealed it, and carried it to the garage like it was biohazard. That night, I logged into our old shared photo drive, the one she thought I didn't remember existed. It was all there. Cancun, Miami, Chicago, dozens of shots she never showed me. None of them with Brandon, of course, she was careful. But the selfies told their own story. The subtle necklines, the blurred hotel bar in the background. Her eyes shining not because of the place, but because of who was taking the photo just off camera. And then I saw the folder, titled simply, Next. I clicked it. Inside screenshots of my emails, of my calendar, notes about our finances, passwords. There were messages between her and Brandon, talking about which assets would be easy to flip, joking about selling my watch collection, about which of my friends would side with her. One message from her read, "Once he's out of the way, I want the house. He can keep his vinyl records and sad man energy." I stared at that line for a long time. She wasn't just cheating. She was erasing me, prepping the script for the world to watch me lose everything while she floated out like some tragic heroine who tried her best. I downloaded the entire folder, sent it to my lawyer, and then I deleted the drive, wiped it clean. Not because I wanted to forget, because I'd seen enough. She was playing chess, but I was already 3 moves ahead. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, no pathetic "let's talk" messages. Amanda had gone quiet, but not because she was done. No, Amanda's silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. She was waiting for the dust to settle so she could make her entrance again. This time with her version of the story ready for anyone who'd listen. But I'd already lit that version on fire. By the 4th day, my lawyer called. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Try me." She tried to file an emergency motion. I almost laughed. For what? To freeze your accounts. Claimed you were financially volatile and emotionally unstable. That you were hiding assets and could pose a danger to her stability. There was that word again, stability. The thing Amanda loved pretending she valued while living like chaos in heels. "What happened?" I asked. "We submitted the folder," she said. "The texts, the screenshots, everything you sent me. And..." She withdrew the motion within 2 hours. Of course she did. Amanda only ever fought battles she knew she could win. When it turned out her arsenal was full of blanks, she backed off fast. But she wasn't gone. I got confirmation the next day. From Brandon. Well, technically from Brandon's ex. Her name was Jenna. She messaged me on Instagram. Just 3 lines. "We've never met, but we have something in common. I was engaged to Brandon. Amanda ruined it. Can we talk?" I called her. She didn't waste time. "I saw her with him months ago," she said. "At our favorite bar." She looked at me like I was furniture. He just grinned. Said I was crazy. "You know how they are." I did. "She used to message me from his phone," Jenna said. "Pretending to be him. Sending me nasty things. And when I blocked her, she started emailing my job. That made me pause." "She what?" "She sent fake complaints to HR. Accused me of harassment. Tried to get me fired. I never had proof it was her, but the language, it was textbook Amanda. I knew something was off the moment he started seeing her. He changed. Got colder. More secretive. I sat there, listening to the stranger describe the same version of Amanda I'd come to know too well. "She'll come back to you," Jenna said, her voice steady. "Not because she wants to fix things, but because her new supply will run out. Brandon always runs." And then she said something that stuck with me. "People like her don't love. They collect." I thanked her, hung up, stared out the window for a while. Amanda didn't want me. She wanted control of me. Brandon wasn't her future. He was just her next grip point. And maybe, just maybe, he was starting to slip. The call came that night. I knew it would. I knew the silence couldn't last. "Amanda." No name on the screen, just no caller ID. But I answered anyway. I didn't say hello. I just waited. And there she was. Her voice, soft, cautious, like the edge of a knife hidden in velvet. "Hey." I didn't answer. She sighed. "I figured you wouldn't say anything. But I need to talk to you." Still, I said nothing. Let her fill the silence. That's when the truth always stumbled out. "It's not working out," she said. "With him. Brandon." Of course, the cracks were showing. He's not who I thought he was," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's cold. He lies. He's never home. I think he's seeing someone else." I closed my eyes. The irony didn't even make me angry. It just felt pathetic. I made a mistake, she continued. A huge one. Now I spoke. No, you made a lot of choices. Mistakes are accidents. You planned this. She didn't argue. That told me more than anything she could have said. I don't want money, she said. I don't want the house. I want to come home. Home. That word made my skin crawl. The house she tried to steal from under me. The life she tried to rewrite. The me she tried to erase. I can't do this alone, she added. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but… She stopped herself. But what? But I thought maybe you'd understand. I actually laughed. You destroyed everything. And now that your little fantasy collapsed, you want me to be your plan B. There was silence. Then, a quiet, bitter, you don't have to be cruel. I'm not being cruel, I said. I'm being clear. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your audience. I'm not a chapter you get to rewrite when the ending with him didn't work out. Her voice sharpened then. Just a little. So you're really done. I was done the second I realized you weren't sorry. Just stranded. Another beat of silence. Then she said something I'll never forget. You'll miss me. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't even sad. It was a threat wearing perfume. I didn't respond. I just hung up and blocked the number. I stood there, staring at the black screen. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I smiled. Because I knew she was finally outside the one place she couldn't claw her way back into. I didn't tell anyone about the call. Not my lawyer. Not my friends. Not even my brother, who had offered to drive up weeks ago just to drag her out by her eyebrows. As he'd put it, Amanda's attempt at crawling back wasn't surprising. It was inevitable. People like her don't retreat. They recalculate. She didn't come back to apologize. She came back to renegotiate the narrative. But I wasn't a character in her story anymore. I was the one holding the pen. The divorce proceedings moved quickly after that. Faster than my lawyer expected. I think Amanda realized her leverage had evaporated. Her threats wouldn't hold. Not when the evidence sat in neatly sorted folders, with timestamps and affidavits and receipts that told the truth in painful clinical detail. She stopped fighting for the house. She stopped pushing for alimony. She signed the agreement without a single red line. But she added one note, scribbled in the margin of the last page. This is not the end of me. No signature. Just that. It didn't scare me. Confirmed everything. Amanda wasn't mourning a marriage. She was mourning control. And she was losing it. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I recognized the slanted cursive before I even opened it. It was 4 pages long. Not an apology. A performance. She talked about her confusion. About losing herself. About the mistake of chasing something she thought would feel like freedom. She described Brandon as emotionally distant. Said he changed once she committed to him. That he doesn't see her the way I did. Then came the part that made me stop reading. I think what we had was real. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize I only strayed because I was afraid you stopped seeing me. There it was. The manipulation disguised as vulnerability. The blame dressed up in ribbon. Even in her confession, Amanda was the victim. And I, the villain who made her cheat. I folded the letter. Dropped it into the shredder. Watched the blades chew through every loop of her handwriting. I felt nothing. Just a strange kind of peace. Not because I was healed, but because I wasn't hers anymore. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. It arrived in a thin envelope. No ceremony, no dramatic bow, just 2 signatures and a state seal. A line drawn through 7 years of shared plans. Late-night talks, arguments, trips, empty silences, and one long, slow betrayal. I stared at it for a while. Then I filed it away. Not out of sentiment, but necessity. Amanda was no longer my wife. She was a chapter. A detailed, messy, dark chapter. But not the story. In the weeks that followed, I started reclaiming space. Not just in the house, but in my own mind. I replaced the curtains she picked. Sold the bed frame she insisted we buy. repainted the wall she once called too masculine. Each change was small, but together they were a quiet revolution. The people around me noticed too. Friends stopped walking on eggshells. My mom, who had never quite trusted Amanda, hugged me for 2 seconds longer than usual and whispered, "You're back." I didn't need a new relationship. I didn't want a distraction. I wanted to breathe without feeling watched. I wanted to laugh without wondering if it would be used against me later. And slowly, quietly, I did. But here's the thing they don't tell you. Healing doesn't come in big, cinematic moments. There's no morning where you wake up and all the weight is gone. No montage of recovery with perfect lighting and background music. It's clumsy, uneven. Sometimes you'll still hear their voice in your head when you least expect it. Sometimes you'll still flinch at a song, a restaurant, a dumb inside joke. But then one day it's just a story. Not a wound, not a scar. Just a story you survived. Amanda didn't call again. She didn't show up. She didn't send another letter. Maybe Brandon imploded and she latched onto someone new. Maybe she's telling her version of the story to someone else. Spinning a tale where she's the misunderstood one who tried to love a man too blind to notice. It doesn't matter. She doesn't get to live in my head anymore. If you're reading this, if you're where I was, sitting in the wreckage of something you thought was real, listen closely. You are not crazy for trusting. You are not weak for trying. But you are stronger than you think if you're willing to let go of someone who would burn down your world just to warm their hands. Don't chase closure. Sometimes the end is the closure. Sometimes silence is the answer. And sometimes walking away is the win. That's how I ended it. By closing the door. And not looking back. The end.